What is an automotive telematics exchange? That's our Techstination. I'm Fred Fishkin. With us from LexisNexis Risk Solutions is Marc Gordan, Head of Global Telematics Product Strategy and Development. Hi, Marc.
Good morning.
Good morning. Well, you've recently announced that Kia America is joining your telematics exchange partners, joining Mitsubishi, Subaru, and GM. Give us an overview of what the exchange is.
Yeah, so an exchange is really an opportunity for us to aggregate telematics data from disparate sources and digest it, clean it, normalize it, and then productize it to offer to the insurance industry, automotive insurance industry, for the benefit of those end users, those drivers who have consented to provide their driving data in the first place. And really, the primary method for these drivers to benefit is through our award-winning product, Telematics on Demand, which simply put allows a consumer to leverage their driving behavior when shopping for insurance so that they can get the most accurate price based on how they drive.
And what types of data are we talking about?
Yeah, we're talking about data such as how many miles they drive, speed, braking, acceleration, things of that nature.
So step us through how this would be used. Is this something that plugs into the OBD port, or what is this?
Yeah, so historically, you mentioned OBD port, and that's true that historically there would be aftermarket products that might plug into that. These days, there's also mobile apps that can be used on the phone. We're actually partnering with the OEMs themselves, as you mentioned. And so this is leveraging connected car technology. So telematics control units, or TCUs, that are embedded in the manufacturing process, so a part of the vehicle. That's effectively a smartphone without a screen. And it drives all sorts of technology, all sorts of services for the connected car experience. We collect that data, as I mentioned, through the OEM relationships. And that's what we digest within our exchange on our platform to use within Telematics on Demand.
And what are the advantages to having an exchange, getting the automakers to work together with you?
Yeah, so there's some clear benefits both for the carriers who use the data, as well as certainly the consumers who are sharing their data. For the consumers, they're, like I mentioned before, more accurate insurance pricing. Now, you can do that also, frankly, with the traditional telematics or insurance telematics use case, or UBI, usage-based insurance, which is through aftermarket devices, through carrier programs. But in those situations, as a consumer, your data effectively stays with that carrier. So if you shop for different insurance, and we know that about 40% of all consumers shop every year, you're unable to leverage that data with another carrier. Whereas with an exchange program such as ours, as a consumer, when I go shopping, I can leverage the data that I shared wherever I shop, as long as that carrier, participates in the exchange. From the carrier's perspective, we help them with the most important part of their business, which is properly matching price to risk, right? So the more data they have, the better they can give the most accurate price to a consumer.
And the potential benefits to the consumers?
Yeah, like I mentioned, it's better pricing, more accurate pricing. And another advantage with the exchange is that they understand their insurance price based on their driving behavior at the point of quote, right? Which is an industry phrase for basically just saying when they're shopping. When they get that quote, they know the best price based on their driving behavior. Whereas that is an advantage or an improvement over, say, the traditional approach, which is when that consumer signs up for a telematics program after purchasing insurance, And then when they go for their first renewal, their price may go up or down. And so the exchange approach, besides giving that consumer more clarity up front, it also helps the carrier with that managing expectations, let's say, from the consumer's perspective.
Now, is the data strictly used for the insurance aspects of this? This is not the technology that, for instance, parents might want to have to keep an eye on teenage drivers, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so the data that we collect and how we use it within our product Telematics on Demand, we believe this needs to be managed within the confines of the Fair Credit Reporting Act, or FCRA. So LexisNexis, being a market leader in data insights and in data analytics, we're also a market leader in things around compliance, privacy, and regulated data, right? And so we take that very seriously. We only share the data, as you mentioned, in insurance use cases where there is permissible purpose. And that just means that as a consumer, we allow them to check on their data if they have any questions, right? We make sure the data is accurate. We make sure that if needed, we can correct it. And we also make sure that consumers can review their data if needed. The other thing I'll mention is that we also do not share location data. And so I think that's a big part to bring up. Now, you mentioned parents wanting to look at their teen drivers' data. In some of our programs, we do support driver feedback, right? So you mentioned Kia. In that integration, we also share data back with Kia so they can, within their user experience, let their drivers know how they're driving, give them better insights to their trips and so forth. So it's not so much about parents checking on teens, but just drivers better understanding how they drive themselves.
And this, of course, is opt-in from the consumer side. So do we know
Absolutely.
Percentages of people who decide this is a good idea?
Yeah, well, it's varies by the OEM and also on the carrier side. So oftentimes consumers are opting in with as I mentioned, with their car company, with their connected program. Some OEMs also have separate opt-ins based on the product or based on the feature. And then on the carrier side, oftentimes carriers also opt in. So we see a range, right? It can be anywhere from the 50s, 60s, up to 90% based on the process, as well as on the carrier side, same thing, 60 to 90% based on the value proposition.
And we know, unfortunately, that crashes do happen. How can this data be used in the event of a crash by the consumer, who may want the data to prove that, hey, it wasn't my fault, or used by perhaps law enforcement?
Yeah, so our solution, Telematics on Demand, is specifically around quoting, underwriting, and renewal, which again are industry terms basically for saying when you're purchasing insurance, when you're renewing your insurance. We're not using this data, we're not offering it to the industry for claims management. But as you mentioned, there are use cases there for sure. Consumer could opt in to share the data from a collision to support their claim, no doubt about that.
So as vehicles become more automated, tell us where this technology is going. Can it maybe be used to share safety data among manufacturers? Hey, this you should be aware that in this kind of circumstance, the vehicle did this. Tell us about it.
Yeah, well, so connected vehicles today, one of the benefits for the OEMs themselves, the manufacturer, is it can help with their R&D, right? So that is happening today for sure. I think where we're going specifically with insurance telematics in the future, which can be sooner than we may sometimes think about it, but it'll just be, I think, more granular, more use cases. right? So as more vehicles become 5G connected, we'll be able to understand more aspects of driving behavior and so forth. And that ultimately benefits consumers. Again, they consent, they opt in, and they can certainly opt out whenever if they want to. But the more data a carrier has in our use case to evaluate risk just means the more accurate their pricing can be. And ultimately, I think that's what we as drivers are looking for, is to frankly be priced based on our own behavior. And that's what we're looking to do here.
And I would assume insurance companies would also have interest in knowing how often a consumer is using the automated driver assistance systems, that kind of thing, the safety systems that are being built into
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, one of the big growth areas for the data is understanding a lot of these ADAS systems and self-driving features. And with connected capabilities, we can also see when someone, has it on or has it off. And so that can, I think that would be a big area of growth going forward.
For more information, where's the best place for people to go?
So with our product, really LexisNexis Risk Solutions, you can find Google Telematics on demand, and you will come right to our website.
Terrific. Marc Gordan, thank you so much for spending time with us.
Thank you for having me.